Hey there, friend. Welcome to the She Leads Real Estate Podcast, where we shine a light on the incredible women making waves in real estate leadership today. This podcast is all about celebrating the achievements, challenges, and insights of women who are driving the industry forward, from team leaders and brokerage owners to managers and trailblazing entrepreneurs. Each episode features candid conversations with inspiring women leaders who share their journeys, strategies, and advice for thriving in a competitive market. Whether you're currently leading a team, you manage a brokerage, or you're aspiring to step into a leadership role, She Leads Real Estate is your go-to resource for empowerment, inspiration, and actionable insights. Hi, I'm Su Sarvis, your host and experienced real estate broker professional, president of Realty Associates, and real estate coach. Previously, I've started a listing team, opened multiple offices, and have managed teams across the great state of Texas. I started this podcast to bring real stories of growth, leadership, and valuable, actionable advice directly to you. Join me as we connect with women who are driving real estate forward, and let's shape the future of the industry together. So I wanted to give an overview of the antitrust lawsuits against NAR, the big three: Moehrl, Sitzer, Burnett, and Nosalek. The reason I wanted to talk about this is this post-August 17th energy we're encountering. There is good energy out there. There are a lot of confused vibes going on, and there are some heads in the sand. And I just think that we need some history, some backstory, and just really give an overall overview. And here's the reason. There are people right now in real estate school that maybe heard about some of these cases in the news. Maybe they didn't. I think that we need something that I could show a new agent or have them listen to, whether it's in my team manual, handbook, brokerage manual, a one-sheeter on these lawsuits all in one place that really describe the cases, where they came from, and what they were about, and how that led to the settlement and the changes as of August 17th, 2024, and some objections that we are hearing lately from agents. So here we go. There are three major antitrust lawsuits: Moehrl versus NAR, Sitzer Burnett versus NAR, and Nosalek versus NAR. These are the ones making waves in the real estate industry, which are reshaping how real estate agents are compensated. These cases argue that the current commission structures enforced by the National Association of Realtors, NAR, inflate costs for consumers and violate antitrust laws. So number one, Moehrl versus NAR out of Illinois. This is the largest of the lawsuits, although it did not go to trial first. It involves claims that NAR's rules force sellers to pay commissions to buyers' agents, artificially keeping rates high. The Moehrl case covers multiple markets across the U.S. and seeks damages exceeding $40 billion, arguing that if not for these rules, sellers would pay significantly less in commissions. Sitzer Burnett versus NAR out of Missouri. The Sitzer Burnett case also targets the NAR's rule requiring sellers to offer compensation to buyer agents through MLS, claiming this practice keeps commission rates inflated compared to other international markets. The estimated damages in this case are around $6 billion. Number three, Nosalek versus NAR out of Massachusetts. The Nosalek case focuses on the Boston area and mirrors the claims made in other lawsuits. Plaintiffs argue that NAR's mandatory compensation rule harms consumers by forcing them into higher commission payments. So, what are the key issues in these lawsuits? The core argument across these lawsuits is that NAR's rules mandate sellers to offer compensation to buyer agents, maintaining commission rates at about 5 to 6%, significantly higher than in other developed countries where rates are closer to 2%. Plaintiffs contend that without these rules, sellers would not offer these commissions, or they would be substantially lower. All in all, think about this. If you've been on a listing presentation and have ever said the words, okay, you don't want to offer buyer agent compensation. Okay, but I'm not sure how many buyer agents will want to then show your home. Ding, ding, ding. That is exactly where this is coming from, right? We can't ever say that is standard, that paying a buyer agent is standard, and the standard in our market is X%. The word standard should no longer come out of your mouth. Everything is negotiable. I'm just giving a little backstory, one question, one sentence that maybe some agents can think, ooh, honestly, I have said that. Let's take the word standard out of our vocabulary altogether and replace it with the word negotiable. These cases all lead to significant changes in how commissions are negotiated, making it illegal for sellers to be required to pay buyer agents under a current structure. This fundamentally alters the traditional real estate compensation model, emphasizing direct negotiations for agent fees. So we know that NAR has settled. Here are the key changes from the NAR settlement that has occurred. The NAR settlement introduces several significant changes that took effect on August 17th, 2024. These are designed to promote transparency and fairness in real estate transactions. Number 1, no MLS communication for seller-paid buyer commissions. Offers for sellers to pay the buyer's broker will no longer be communicated through MLS listings. Instead, these payments will be handled off MLS, requiring direct negotiation between sellers and agents. This change is intended to give sellers more control over how they choose to compensate buyer brokers. Number 2, written agreements for buyer representation. Buyers working with agents who are MLS members must now sign a written agreement before viewing properties. This agreement outlines the agent's responsibilities and specifies the agreed upon compensation. This ensures transparency and sets clear expectations about the financial arrangements upfront, limiting compensation to the terms agreed upon, regardless of additional incentives from sellers. Number 3, disclosure and approval requirements. If a seller does choose to offer compensation to a buyer broker, this must be explicitly disclosed in writing, and the seller's agent must obtain the seller's approval before proceeding. The disclosure must specify the exact amount or rate of payment, nothing ambiguous here, making the process more transparent and allowing sellers to fully understand the financial implications of their decisions. NAR settlement facts for you to know and have in the back of your mind. The NAR settlement, which involved paying $418 million over 4 years, aims to resolve these lawsuits and protect its members while preserving consumer choice. It covers claims against NAR, nearly every state, territorial, and local realtor association, all association-owned MLSs, and brokerages with NAR member principals whose 2022 residential transaction volume was $2 billion or below. This comprehensive settlement seeks to safeguard the industry's cooperative compensation model while ensuring that such offers occur off the MLS in compliance with the new rules. The settlement does not set nor dictate commissions, which remain entirely negotiable between brokers and their clients. NAR emphasizes that these changes are meant to increase transparency rather than standardized commission rates. Contrary to some media reports, the settlement does not mean commissions were previously set at a standard rate or that they are only now becoming negotiable. No, they have always been subject to negotiation and influenced by market forces beyond any single organization's control. Moving forward, navigating changes, I am sure that as the real estate landscape evolves, brokers are likely going to experiment with new business models, whether prompted by strong market demands or strong client expectations. We may see brokerage fees being negotiated and structured differently across various transactions. This means that individual agents will need to adapt their approach when discussing fees with clients. It's fair to say that this transition could be a bit complex and confusing at first, but it's just part of the process. So here's an objection that I've heard from an agent. Well, if compensation isn't shared through the MLS, buyer brokers won't get paid. Sellers won't want to cover buyer broker fees, and buyers might refuse to pay their own brokers. My response to that is think about all the times that you have worked with a client who initially said, no way. Maybe it was a seller who swore that they wouldn't negotiate repairs, they're selling as is, or a buyer who was adamant about not letting the seller stay in the house after closing. But after you explain their stance, why their stance might not be in their best interest, they often reconsidered, or at least became open to negotiating. And negotiating is key here. In our transactions, representation is crucial. So whether the buyer's broker fee is paid out of pocket by the buyer, or it's covered by the seller through a concession, or handled by the listing broker via cooperating compensation, each option has its advantages and its challenges. As a real estate professional, it's our role to present these options to our clients, guide them in choosing what's best for their situation, and letting them decide. Whatever the model, keeping the client's best interest is always at the forefront. It is always the priority. Here's another objection. Why is my broker suddenly trying to control how I run my business and what I charge? I'm an independent contractor. Here's my response. By law, the relationship between a brokerage and a client, including all fees, is established by the broker. Brokers have the right to set internal policies, and given the increased risks in today's market, we may see brokers becoming more stringent, or at least more clear, about how agents are expected to operate within the brokerage. These new rules and settlements, these terms specifically address and sometimes require changes in certain practices. I would not be surprised at all if most team leaders listening or agents listening, your brokerage has employed some form of change somewhere in their handbook or policies in the last year. Not surprised in the least. If an agent bypasses or ignores these brokerage's rules, the consequences go beyond a slap on the wrist from MLS. There could be legal implications, with brokers and agents facing lawsuits from motivated plaintiffs. The protection offered by these new rules only applies to those who actually follow them. In reality, nothing has fundamentally changed regarding broker policies. If an agent wants to operate in a way that their current broker does not support, then they may need to consider making a brokerage change. But if a client is seeking a relationship or fee that doesn't align with the brokerage's policy, they also would need to find a different broker. These are things that need to be kept in mind. Everyone has choice. Agents have choice. Clients have choice. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we need to follow the new rules, and agents need to follow the rules of their brokerage. Next objection. It feels awkward to discuss fees and agency relationships right when I meet a buyer outside a listing. No buyer wants to sign a contract under those circumstances. Okay, my response to that is, yeah, you're absolutely right. Don't do it outside of a listing. Get yourself a buyer consultation and meet with them in a formal or casual, however you rock and roll setting. You're right. Many buyers might hesitate to jump into an agency agreement the first time they meet you outside a listing. Absolutely. But this could be your opportunity to rethink how you build those buyer relationships. And think about this. When we approach a seller that we've never met before, they might not want to talk about money or sign a contract right away either. But you probably have scripts and presentations ready to go on how to guide potential sellers through detailed conversation about your services and your value, your fees, and why signing a listing contract benefits them. You wouldn't agree to work with a seller who says, I'm not ready to sign a contract. Just list my property on MLS and we'll see how it works out. Handle showings for a few weeks first. No way. There's a process for moving from an initial meeting to a signed listing contract, and both parties understand that no services are provided until the process is complete. So it might be time to apply the same thing, the same approach to buyers. Are they serious? Are they financially capable of buying the types of properties they're interested in? Do they fit your style and your expertise as a buyer agent? You need to do this kind of vetting. Also, we have been getting really strong. Our left arm on listing presentations, super strong. You probably know your listing presentation in your sleep. Well, guess what? It's time for the right arm, your buyer consultations, to get just as strong. Your value proposition, which hopefully you have been working on for the last year or two at the urging of your brokerage or team leader, is just waking up, getting just as strong as that left arm, as your listing presentation. You should have a buyer consultation ready to go, prepped, ready to rock and roll, that is just as strong as your listing presentations probably have been for a very long time. It's time for them to be on even playing field as far as preparedness and sharpness. Another objection: I'll follow the rules, but I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing with my buyers. If the listing broker or seller offers less than my negotiated fee, I'll just waive the rest so the buyer doesn't have to pay. If they offer more, I'll adjust my contract to take the higher amount. Ooh, okay. Response: you might want to reconsider that approach several times. The new rules are super clear. Buyer broker fees must be objectively ascertainable, not open-ended, not ambiguous. So in other words, the fee should be a specific amount or formula, not something like the buyer broker comp will be whatever the seller offers. Your fee should be clearly stated without room for negotiation on the fly. While it's still possible to occasionally renegotiate fees in certain transaction contexts, like when a listing broker gives something back to a seller or a buyer agent helps with buyer expenses, if your business model is essentially, I'll take whatever I can get, you will find yourself out of compliance with these new regulations. This could expose your brokerage to legal risks that are very real. So simply put, agents and brokers who focus on figuring out how to succeed within the new rules will likely fare much better than those who try to find ways around them and try to find ways to bend them. Focus on succeeding within the new parameters. Focus your efforts on how to motivate and scripts for your team and your brokerage rather than trying to play fast and loose. While some of these changes might feel overwhelming, at the end of the day, stay informed. Maintain clear communication with your clients. The NAR settlement is designed to foster a more transparent and fair real estate market, ultimately benefiting both consumers and professionals. As agents, our role is to guide our clients through these challenges and changes with confidence and clarity, helping them understand the new rules and how they can make the most out of their real estate transactions. Speaking of post-August 17th energy, I want you to think about a professional athlete. How does a professional athlete get ready to play for a game, much less a championship game? They practice, they take care of their body, they watch their nutrition, they study, they watch film, they go back and study their past games and where their mistakes possibly were. They get ready for the next game. They prep and watch film of the opposing team and see what plays they do and see what their players' skills are and their weaknesses are. That's us in this moment. And I want to give you and your team and any new agent starting in real estate the energy of go out there and prepare. Prepare to win. You can still win in this industry. These lawsuits are not game over. It's not. There are people looking to buy and sell every day of the year. They're out there. And they're wanting to work with you. I'll give you one example. I have an agent with me at our brokerage realty associates in the Texas, Houston, and other markets. And they let me know that they attended their association's new forms class not once, not twice, but 3 times. First of all, in Texas, we had some form changes, and then they got changed again. 11 of the 16 had a revision. And, they went back and took another 3-hour class to get the revisions airtight, under lock and key. They know them front and back. They also watched multiple times the Texas Realtor videos, 2 different sources, multiple times. They know them forwards and backwards and can explain the new changes to their clients without having to read word for word on the form. This establishes you as a trusted professional. You are prepared. You know what the forms say. You know exactly what went down with the changes. And that shows. That shows to sellers and that shows to buyers. And the other last imparting thing I will leave you with is be the first one to bring it up. Bring it up in your listing presentation. Bring up the lawsuit and settlement in your buyer consultation. Call me crazy, but I like to close the doors on the objection hallway before they are opened. When you ask for questions at the end, and then they're like, hey, what is this I heard about not having to pay so-and-so or having to pay so-and-so? I want to have controlled that narrative and explained it in the way that I feel makes my clients most comfortable and really gives them the knowledge to then make their own decisions about their financial transaction at the end of the day. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to say, hey, you've probably seen, Mr. Seller, somewhere in the news, something about a lawsuit involving real estate professionals. I want to let you know that I am way ahead of the game. I know all the changes, all the contract form revisions that have gone on, and you are in good hands. So when we talk about commission, of course, it's negotiable. Let's go over the whys and hows of that and what makes sense for you and your property. Something like that needs to come out of your mouth, and it needs to sound good. It needs to sound sure, and it needs to sound confident within the parameters set by your specific broker. I hope that this has been helpful. I want this episode to be a guide that is stationary, hopefully, fingers crossed, unless there are more changes. Here's the history, here are the cases, here are the changes, here are some of the challenges that you might face, and here are some ways to think about them. Until next time, keep leading the way in real estate. Hey again, it's me. Thanks for being here today. If you enjoyed what you heard, please feel free to rate, review, or share this podcast with someone that you think might benefit. We so appreciate you joining us today. Check us out next time on the She Leads Real Estate podcast with Su Sarvis.